This week in 1940, 83 years ago, thousands of people were in St. Louis for a national beer brewing convention. It was just 7 years after the end of Prohibition, and brewers were touting the superiority of their post-Prohibition beer. The beer had changed, but a lot of drinkers were saying they liked the old stuff better. But the bosses of America's breweries had bigger worries. There was another war in Europe which the U.S. might get into, and there was concern that anti-German sentiment could once again turn into anti-beer sentiment, and they were trying to get ahead of that. They needed to establish their patriotism and support for national defense. But more important, they were working to have Washington declare beer brewing an essential wartime industry. Brewers Association President George Sippel's message was that beer is good for you, and he said no one could argue that our soldiers and sailors in their camps are not entitled to and benefited by a bottle of beer after a hard day's work. And in fact, when we were in the war, beer brewing was one of our essential wartime industries, with 15% of production going to the military. But more than staying in business, the brewers knew they were building business. A 1941 issue of Brewers Digest said this was a chance to cultivate a taste for beer in millions of young men who will eventually constitute the large beer-consuming section of our population. They were right. It's been said that World War II saved the brewing industry and established American lagers, think Budweiser, as the dominant American beer. And the groundwork? It was being laid in St. Louis this week in history, 83 years ago. For Living St. Louis, I'm Jim Kircher.